Welcome to the Startup Sac Sacramento Startups Podcast. Today we're welcoming back Dante Morris, co-founder of Hoopmaps, who we first interviewed a couple of years ago back in March of 2017. We recently at Startup Sac held a pitch competition and Dante won second prize for Hoopmaps. And so we've asked Dante back on the show. Dante, can you start out by kind of explaining your background with Hoopmaps and how that all started for those who aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, definitely, and I appreciate you having me on your show. Hoopmaps was founded, early 2016, and the idea was for us to find pickup basketball games. Me and my brother Dominic, we played baseball, and after a baseball game, we wanted to play basketball, but we wanted to play with our friends. And at that time, they wasn't available. They wouldn't hit us back on the phone, so it was like it had to be an app out there where we could just look on the phone, see where people are playing basketball, and just go to the games. And that's kind of where the idea came from. So now it's 2016, and then in 2017 is when we actually got the prototype out and got it on the iOS market.
So how long did that take from the time you had the idea, you're driving the car, looking for a game, you just, bam, idea, and you start talking about it. How long did it take from when you started, from that concept of the idea to when you said, okay, let's start building this thing?
It's about 6 months, and that was a real learning curve because just like anybody, I wanted to build an app. I know I wanted it in an app format, not a website format, and I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to go about it. Should I hire somebody? Should I try to find a co-founder that's a developer? So at that point, I was just doing all my research on figuring out how can we get this product from our idea to the marketplace. And then that's where I took a course at Hackers Lab. It was a 6-week course that taught me the intro of how to build an app in Swift language, which is in iOS.
So shout out to Hacker Lab, local resource here for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so I took that course, and then shortly after that, that's when we actually got the app out there, start building the initial part, and then we found a guy in Los Angeles to finish it.
So how tough was that? You'd never had any experience coding before. Taking a course and building an app for the first time. How hard was that?
It was a different language. It was literally a different language. So just having the concept of, how to build apps, how to read a language, how to make things functions that are different was like just a whole new course, but it really opened up my eyes of what developers go through, what the whole software development, ecosystem is, and how people really get things to market. So I was taken back about it because it was overwhelming at first, and I was like, I'm really a business guy. I'm an idea guy mostly, but I'm not really, a coder. I didn't go to school for this.
Consider yourself a tech guy?
Yeah, not really, because I just said, I know I want this end product, but, nobody, and the misconception is like, you'll find somebody at a meetup. It was like, I got the idea, you got the skills, let's come together 50-50, let's build a product. But I actually did that for a couple months, and I realized everybody that know how to build something also have their own ideas as well. So it kind of don't work that way. You kind of got to put some skin in the game. You got to learn how to do it yourself. You got to put something out to the market, and then other people will attach to it afterwards.
Yeah. And so you probably learned a lot, not just about coding, but about how the users would interact with it, what they would have to do, what you would have to do to accommodate them, just by learning how to code an app, right?
Definitely. And that's when I first learned about MVP. Like what an MVP was and how that was important to really just get that initial product out. Because me and my brother, we had, grand ideas of what the app should be. It was like, we'll be able to message people, have video calls, and all these bells and whistles. It was like, people got to use it first, and people got to like it, and they got to just solve one problem. So we focused on one problem. So we took a survey of a lot of basketball players around Sacramento before we even, started on the product. And that really gave us a good perspective of what they need and what they're looking for.
Let's talk about that. How did you do that? Did you, have a paper form? You went to the basketball courts and just started asking people questions? Did you send them to a Google form online to fill stuff out? How did, I want other people to be able to learn from what you did. How did you do that?
Initially, we had a Google form. We sent a text list out to all our friends and Dominic to all of his friends, but we realized people, even if it takes 5 minutes, they're not going to do it. So we actually went to the courts, and that's where we played basketball for an hour, and then as we sat down for the next game, passed them the phone, talked about the idea first, and then passed them the phone for the survey.
Okay, so they just did it on the phone.
Yeah, and it was right there, and then they kind of can't say no from there because they right in front of them. So I was just getting some real life knowledge of what people going through, what they're looking for, how it's a good idea, what's not a good idea, and what they'll actually use. So going out to the courts is actually what got us.
How did those surveys change your perspective or ideas as far as what you should build?
it put us in perspective of what we wanted to build. Like initially, we had this concept of what the app should be, how it should feel, what it should look like. But when we went out to the courts and talked to the players, we said, well, they don't really care about this. They really care about that. So it kind of put our priorities in order. It put us in a perspective of you need to work on this. You need to spend 90 hours on this one function as opposed to the other. So it's kind of like a pie in the sky idea. Like you have this big concept because you feel that you're a basketball player, but majority rules, and the majority of players say, I want to just find games on the app instantly, then that's what you got to build first.
So how much of that is continued? I mean, how that was back in 2016 or 17?
2017.
When you actually launched the MVP. How much of that focus the core that you built from those surveys is still there, or has it expanded or grown to what it is today?
It's still our core app. So our core app is still like a map-based app that have icons of where games are at. That's still like the initial core. But from there, we really grew into more functioning places where people could chat. They got one-on-one messages, got group messages. A lot of our complaints was like, I want to be able to contact my friends just like a text message. So it was like, let's just build something that's simple, like an SMS text where users could just talk in a group, but it's in the basketball format. And that's what we really spent 2018 building.
Now, I remember, I think you first pitched it was probably back in 2017 at Kings Capitalize.
Yeah.
I saw you pitch there for the first time. So was the app actually working then, that MVP?
Yeah, the app was actually out and working. It was only on iOS at the time, but it was out in the marketplace.
Okay, and when did you built it on iOS first, and then you expanded to Android. When did that happen?
Android happened just recently. Android was recently as December of 2018.
Okay, wow. So, since the interview where I interviewed you 2 years ago, a lot has happened. You expanded to Android. You've added a huge customer base, from my perspective anyway. And what you're most known for around here possibly is you were on Shark Tank. So, and a lot of people may know you from that. But what are some of the challenges and lessons learned that have taken place in that 2 years since we last saw you? I mean, expanding and the user base and Shark Tank and all that stuff.
Well, the whole 2017, I'll say March to like June was totally different for us. Like we was a young company, just having an idea, a concept. Our biggest goal was to get 500 users. Like we'll go to Chili's afterwards. That's just that. So after that, really March of 2017 is when things start taking off. We got featured in like local Good Day Sacramento. And then from there, the SAC-B picked us up. Then TechCrunch picked us up. And then we did the SAC Capitalize thing. And then from there, a lot of national media outlets picked us up. And the biggest one was SportsCenter. And then after SportsCenter, a lot of blogs just start reposting us. So in the span of 1 month, we was in like maybe 10 or 12 national publications. And we saw our user base grow from 500 to 1,000 to 10,000 to really 30,000 within that 1 month span.
How did you initiate that? I mean, people would die to get that kind of exposure, media exposure. Was that something you specifically did, or was it luck, or how did it happen?
I think it was a little bit of both. Like we was always seeking. I guess it was a great opportunity and great timing. Because when Good Day Sacramento picked us up, it was during March Madness, and that was we realized media companies. It's a theme. We're a basketball app, and it kind of flow well. And then from there, it was really a lot. We give a lot of credit to our friends that's on Facebook and Twitter, because from their reposts, that's when the websites picked us up. That's when the NPRs, the TechCrunches, and like all of the websites really picked us up. And then from there, it just snowballed all the way to SportsCenter. And then that's when the producer from Shark Tank emailed us and said, we'll be good for the show.
So out of the blue, you get an email from Shark Tank?
Out of the blue.
What was that like?
I was like, is this really Shark Tank? It was a weird feeling. Like it was just in our inbox, and like they said, give us a call from Shark Tank. And we was like, all right, yeah, right. And we called, and it was a producer, and he said just what he said in the email. He said, I like the concept. I think this will do great. This is how you get on the show. And then we had to fill out like 1,000 papers and send in interviews, and that was like a 2-month process. And then we didn't hear nothing back from them from like 3 weeks, and then they finally called us back and said, here's a plane ticket. These are the days you need to be in Los Angeles, and here's a possibility of y'all being on the show. So everything happened really fast. Everything was in like a 2-month time period, and it was just, from our standpoint, it was just like, it was growing. real fast, faster than we could develop, faster than
Was it faster than you're comfortable with?
definitely was, because at the time it was just a prototype, and it was really set for maybe at the most 5,000 users. In the course of like, I'll say a month, we had 30,000 users. So we had authentication problems, login issues. We had all the type of stuff that, a company that's not prepared to really blow up happened to us.
And
So
you had to deal with all that, right?
we had to
It's
deal
just you
with
and
it.
Dominic.
Yeah, we had to deal with it. We had to switch our back end. We had to switch to AWS from our original back end that we had. It was a lot of things that we had to change quickly. And a lot of people was coming at us as well. A lot of investors, a lot of media companies, a lot of people that want to, help us out, that want to help us market. So everything was coming at once, and we really, usually when pressure is on us, we really just sit back and then weigh out our options, and that's kind of what we did at that point.
So you mentioned people coming out and offering help. You mentioned investors and mentors and marketers. So what are some of the biggest things you took away from that experience, from that whole hype cycle that you went through?
We realized we asked ourselves, what do we want out of this? At the end of the day, we know this could be temporary. We know people could really go up. You always got to come down at a certain point. So we acknowledged that first. We knew that this wasn't going to be a constant, that we either have to take advantage of it or realize what we want out of there. And then from there, we said, we want to get a real good product out of this, no matter what. Like, we got a prototype, we have ideas, a concept. Now we got the eyeballs on us to really put a good product out to the market. And that's where we focus on. So our idea was to take the prototype into a real version 1 and get it out on both platforms to the users.
And did you guys do that, or you hire somebody, a developer, to help you out with that, or?
Yeah, so we did that. So along that time too, we that's where we found our CTO, Winjo Suarez. He's a current developer at Oracle right now, and we actually added him to the team.
Okay.
So during that standpoint, that's when he kind of helped us out with our back end, some front end issues, and kind of managed the code and the development of the app from there. And it kind of stabilized us from a while.
So I know a lot of people might be interested in hearing, and you maybe get asked this a lot, but what's the top lesson you take away from the Shark Tank experience?
Well, I realized it was a TV show as opposed to like a business venture capitalist meeting.
It's showbiz, right?
It's showbiz. It's a TV driven rating show. So when we got in there, actually that was like our first real VC meeting right there, like on TV. Like, we didn't really have a sit down with anybody. And I think I even asked you for like a questionnaire before.
I remember we met over at Sac State,
Yeah.
and I hooked you up with one of our board members, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from there, it was like, all right. So we actually had to watch the show to get prepared for the show, because the way it works, they don't really tell you nothing. They just really help you with the first pitch, just getting your pitch right, and then the questions is, it's really up to you at the end. So we prepared for the pitch. We went over the whole thing, and then the questions. And in our minds, it was like, they're gonna ask this, they're gonna ask that. So it's just like taking a test. You don't know what's gonna come, so you got to get it prepared. So it was a great experience. So a lot of people don't know is they might only cut maybe 7 or 8 minutes that we see, but was in there for an hour and a half.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it was questions, and they all ask questions at the same time. So I think they want you to get a reaction, want you to get flustered, want you to get frustrated. So Barbara will ask a question, Kevin will ask a question, and then Alex Rodriguez asks a question, and they all asking the same question at the same time. They said, "Hey, why you not answering my question?" And I was like, "Cause I'm answering his question." So it was a good experience of just how to deal with composure, how to handle yourself, how to stay professional, not to really get out of whack, and really answer assertively. That's what I realized. If you answer with confidence, then your message will come across.
Okay. And when was that Shark Tank episode aired?
They aired in November, and we taped it in June.
November of 2017?
Was it 20?
No, it wasn't
2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since that time, I think you kind of, from my perspective, I didn't hear much from you guys for a while, and then all of a sudden I saw you start exploding in social media and Instagram a bit. So was there a quiet time where you kind of took a step back? Sounds like you came back from that and reassessed, like you said. So what has happened since then? What's your direction now, and how have you changed from that step back and rethinking things?
Yeah, so actually during that time, we'll say pretty much the whole of 2018, that's when we actually got invested. So we had a local investor that invested into our version 1, which we invested $25,000 into building out
So
our
your
new
first little
app,
seed round.
our first seed round. And then all of 2018 is when we just worked on the development of the app. We just scrapped everything from the prototype, redid our back end, our front end, added more features. So now it's a whole new app that's capable of having 1 million users, 2 million users on it.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
So we really thought about the future in 2018. We said we're going to build something that's just not going to crash, that's not going to go out, but something that's foundational that users can use and that we can actually build upon in the future. So that was kind of like our quiet time, was really putting ourselves in order. And now go back to the goal that we had was we want to get a real product out of this. Out of all the hype, let's build a product that users could use. And that's what we did 2018. It was every day was going to the CoWo space, was going to Sac State, where we could find an open room. And every Saturday we're just planning out our attack, our approach. And that's what we did.
So it seems, I saw you pitch on, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now, and answering some of the questions from the judges at that pitch event. It seemed like to me like you were taking a very calculated, methodical approach now, focusing on a core geography area like here in Sacramento or Dominic's in LA, and growing that base rather than doing a shotgun approach. Can you talk a little bit about that, how you came to that realization that that's how you needed to grow? Yeah,
definitely. So during the 2017 boom, we had a lot of users in a lot of different places spread out across America and all over the world. So we took all that data and we realized and we figured out what's our strongest marketplaces. So we got our top 10 markets, and our new approach now that we have the app is to really target the markets, see how we could, capitalize on our users, what do they need, what are their wants, and how we could service the users. So now that we have the platform and the app, our goal is to build a revenue model that's successful. So our approach is to go to our strongest markets, and we want to offer them curated pickup games where users could go to gyms, they'll go, instead of going to 24-hour fitness or any other gym, they could play with their friends or play with people that's more like themselves, and they'll pay a small fee to where they could play basketball in a controlled area.
So how does that curation work? Is it something, how do you select them? And is it self-selected? Is it some kind of algorithm that's determining player ability and grouping them, curating them somehow? How does that work?
Yeah, so our users really tell us all the data. Right now on our app, our users create different groups based off the city they're in, based off their work groups, and we just take that data and we just match them together. So right now, Oklahoma City, which is one of our top 3 markets, they have 20 groups that's just been created in the last week, and each group have about 20 to 25 users, and all of those users in between the ages of 21 and 31. So we take the age, we take the demographics, we take the friend ability, we see who friends with who, and then we say, this group that's Oklahoma workers or this group that's construction workers, you guys are 2 groups, we're gonna put you guys in this local gym, and instead of playing every Tuesday when you guys are available and every Friday, we have this Tuesday night that's available. We're gonna rent out this gym in Oklahoma, and instead of you guys paying $10 at 24-hour fitness every time, we actually gonna rent out this gym and it'll be $5, and we'll have it every Saturday or every Friday.
So you're working with gyms to do that?
We're working with local gyms right now.
Okay.
So local, and we have school district as well. Our whole goal is to target privately owned gyms where we could talk to an owner and get an agreement going. But we also working with high school and school districts, one-time rentals. What we're really trying to do is not really pay up front for rental fees. We're trying to establish a relationship where we can do a rev split.
Okay.
Currently, the structure is we pay, $30 an hour, $60 for like a whole session. But right now, instead of paying that $60 up front, we'll get the gym straight up. We'll build a long-term relationship over a 6-month plan, and the rev split will be larger than just the initial $60 or $30.
So, that sounds like a lot of work, I'm assuming on your part, to do all that coordination with all the gyms and curating the players and the games and all that. Is that just you doing that, or do you have people helping you out with that?
Yeah, that's me, Dominic, and we also have another team member, Darren, who's our business guy. He also works at Oracle. That's kind of what he do for a living, for a job. So he got real expertise in reaching out to gyms. Data crunching, knowing where our strongest market's at. So he's actually working on the game plan of really coming out in our best approach. But our past is we ran a dope baseball league for the last.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. It seems like this really overlaps with your baseball league experience.
Yeah, so that's what we used to do. We used to have to go to the city, get a permit, get insurance, rent out fields. At one time, we had about 10 teams, so we had to coordinate with the coaches, coordinate with the fields, coordinate with the umpires. So this is similar to that approach where we rent out facilities. We got users that want to play basketball, and we just meeting the demand.
So yeah, so you have a ton of experience. You've been doing the Morris League for like 8-10 years or something like that.
Yeah, 10 years.
So you're playing off that strength, that experience, and bringing that to this now. That's
Yeah.
So what has the response been for the curated leagues? How's that going?
It's been going real good. We started just here in Sacramento. We've been testing it out for the last month, and it's been real successful. One of our biggest problems right now is just finding a consistent gym that we could partner with. But our goal is to really have at least 1 or 2 partner gyms where we can have a relationship where we could rent out the gyms anytime, and then we'll get the better response. Just like anything, if you have consistency, people will come. So if we at one gym every Tuesday or every Saturday, then we'll feel our response will be better.
So if anybody's watching this, has a gym, and wants to reach out to you, they're intrigued by it, what should they do?
If they could email us, hoopmap@gmail.com, or just go to our website, contact us, and we'll work together.
Awesome. So you mentioned your top markets. What are the top markets?
So we have Sacramento, Los Angeles, Oakland, Hayward, San Jose, Bay Area, Oklahoma City, New York, Houston, and then we have Miami, Florida, and then we have Portland, Oregon.
So are anything else surprises to you? Oklahoma City, I never would have thought that would be a huge area for you.
Yeah, Oklahoma City has been like one of our strongest markets. Like out of our first 500, it was probably about 60 of those users was from Oklahoma City. Just random, it's just been a strong, user base.
How that happened? That's where it kind of, took.
Well, we had when we first got on SportsCenter, a guy from Oklahoma City had a basketball group out there, and he really championed us out there. He changed his name from Oklahoma Basketball to Hoop Maps Oklahoma.
Oh, cool.
So it kind of started early, with just a Facebook group that's out there. And right now they have over 2,000 users on Facebook. That's like a constant group that people play with. And I think from that initial branding to now is what kind of grew that market.
Okay. So what's the focus for 2019? Just focusing on those core markets and slow growing with that curation approach?
Yeah, our whole goal of 2019 is just to build a successful revenue model. So we want to test out here, Sacramento first, test out, between different gyms, see how successful it run over a course of months, and then roll that out all across America.
Cool. So what needs, I'm kind of wondering what can the community do to help Hoop Maps grow here? Sacramento is going to be our core audience listening to this, obviously. But what needs do you have to grow Hoop Maps and take it to the next level?
I think Sacramento as a whole, if we could are you talking about the startup community or just anybody?
Anybody, really. Startup community, other entrepreneurs in the startup community here or even beyond.
I feel if Sacramento could champion us, Hoop Maps as being here from Sacramento, originated here, got the story from here. Like, I want to be recognized as an international company that's based in Sacramento. So I want that message to be strong that, you have one of the big names right here in your city, and whatever you could do to support, we big. So if you could tell people about basketball, because basketball is just the beginning, but we plan to expand into different sports, tennis, soccer, volleyball, all different sports. And we see us leading this rec tech industry.
Very cool. So once you expand out in these 10 markets, do you have goals for others? Have you got other places picked out yet? Or
yeah, so outside of America, our strongest market is in London.
London,
really? Yeah, so we want to go out there, and it's different, across the seas. Weather changes, how people play basketball, what they look at. So we definitely want to study our international markets, and London will be a good test case for what people do in Europe, and then we go to the Philippines.
Wow.
The good thing about our app now is we have users that message us from all across the world. And the cool thing is just started a couple years ago, from idea. So it's just fascinating for me to really go outside somewhere I've never been before, but people that got the app that, we thought about a couple years ago.
So you're going to be traveling to London and the Philippines and checking these things out? So because the culture for pickup games is probably going to be different wherever you go, right?
Yeah, they might have, I think the core of pickup is the same everywhere, but they just do it in different ways. Like people in Oklahoma City, they play a different kind of way. In Florida, they play at nighttime. Houston, they play late night. Yeah, in Sacramento, we got great weather out here, so we could play January to December. So just learning about how people do things different, but also how to keep it the same. But yeah, I plan to travel to London, Australia, everywhere that we have our app at.
Awesome. So, kind of pivoting a little bit to Well, actually, let me go back to this one first. You just told me today you've launched a podcast. You've had a podcast running for years about the baseball league, but you've also recently launched another podcast. So talk about those a little bit.
Yeah, so we launched the Hoop Map podcast. It's me and Dominic. We get together. We talk about in real time what we got going on with our app. You know, if we talking with an investor, or if we just launched a different market, or if we have a bug on the app that's bothering us, we kind of give you the inside baseball of what's going on in real time. So what it's like to kind of run the app every day. And then we also talk about just entrepreneurial concepts, you know, what we like out there in the market, what other companies are doing things good, what companies in Sacramento are doing things good.
Cool.
So we just talk about what we got going on.
And what's it called again?
It's called the Hoop Map Podcast.
Hoop Maps Podcast? And that's on iTunes and
It's on
Stitcher and all those?
iTunes. It's mostly hosted on a website, so hoopmaps.com. We have a direct link on the podcast
Okay,
app.
check it out. And so you also said you've been doing another one for 8 years or so, and that's called The Dugout?
Yeah, it's called the Sac Dugout
Sac
Show,
Dugout.
where we talk about baseball right here in Sacramento. And it's a good show. We bring coaches, we bring Hall of Fame baseball players, and it's just different than basketball, but we're focused on baseball and baseball here in Sacramento.
Very cool. So back to the other question I wanted to ask earlier is, so you launched here in Sacramento, you had the idea here in Sacramento, so you've been embedded in the Sacramento startup community since you started in 2016. What do you think we can do here in the Sacramento startup community to help other early stage founders like you be more successful?
I think just if you guys keep putting on more events, like the pitch competition, that was great. Like more events like that where we could showcase, you know, what we got going on. Because, you know, even though we do it once or twice in the past, like sometimes like we feel if it's more things out there for us to do, then we keep our name out there. You know, we let people know, are we just launched on this platform? Are we, you know, kind of keep people updated what we're going on. So more pitch competitions, more conferences, more startup weekends like you guys had in Folsom. Like just keep on putting more events and keep inviting us back. And I think the Sacramento startup community will grow. Like having established companies and up and coming companies meet all together, because it could be daunting, like trying to start up ideas, so many things you got to go through. It's so many things that you got to face. You're always thinking behind, but you know, seeing people that's in front of you, seeing people that succeeded, and seeing people that started, it's just good to have them all in the same room.
Yeah, one of the things I keep trying to figure out is how I can help. You know, you've gotten a certain level of success. So beyond having a pitch competition that showcases you, what else can we as Startup Sac do to help people in your level, at your level where you've gotten to get to the next step? And I'm not sure there's other programs or what those might be. So if you have ideas, happy to hear them.
What about a conference?
Like a conference. I'd love to do a conference. I'd love to get Startup Week happening here in Sacramento. The problem is it takes a lot of work. And we need to get a lot of people beyond just Laura and myself at Startup Sac involved, because there's no way we can put something on of that size just by ourselves. And so we need to get funding, and we need to backing, and we need to get collaboration from the whole community to do that. And so it's definitely something we want to do, but it's just a matter of finding the resources to do it. So anybody wants to pitch in on that, give me a ring. So any words of advice, inspiration, encouragement for other aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I'll say just keep going. You'll never have it figured out when you start. You might not even have a business when you start. Like if you have an idea and you think it's worthy, and you call 10 of your friends and they'll use it, start. You never know where it'll lead. You know, your idea of a website might turn into an app might turn into a platform or a startup community. So just start with your idea. You never know where it'll take you, and just don't get discouraged. You know, a lot of times I looked on LinkedIn, I looked on Instagram, I look on Twitter, and I see people that's way ahead of me, people that, you know, started less than me but got funding. And I'll say kind of put your blinders on, and you don't really know what everybody else are going through. Like they might have raised money, but you know, they might not have something else. So just kind of focus on what you got going and just trying to really expand that. That's what I'll say.
And listen to your podcast so you get other tips, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So anything else you want to share?
No, this was it. I'm, appreciative of having another interview.
All right. Well, thanks. Appreciate the time, Dante.
Thank you.